Anyways, I've been thinking about it all day. Actually, all last night too, but I was like, you know, and I shouldn't say all day, like, other important things came in my mind, like I needed to take a pee and I needed to eat something, and I decided to go for 3 walks because I really like having at least 3 walks in my day. But there was a consistent number of times that I was thinking about how grateful I am to Rudy's other wives. Especially because my story would not be nearly as interesting right now if it weren't for the fact that my DM is the only guy that I know that could be technically married to 3 different women and not be violating any laws. And it can only exist even because the 3 of us are accepting of that. Well, more me than y'all, because clearly you don't want people to know about it. I don't know why. If you wanted to set up those dynamics, shouldn't you be bragging about them or something? I don't know. But it's funny for him to still be emotionally married to his first wife, Sheila. Still common law married to me, technically. And now married to his third person, Tina. And it's like, I'm actually really grateful for that. Like, I know that they're probably watching this thinking I'm full of shit, but I really am grateful for that. I never could have put that story in my own life in that way if I tried on my own. Anyways, I couldn't. Like, I really couldn't. On top of that, the thing that gets me is like the gossip train. Like, why doesn't any of the clever stuff that I say actually, like the clever and real stuff, actually make it to these people? Like, I'm sure that Rudy's probably said it, but like, I've told everybody, I've been very authentic and genuine. I have zero intentions to involve myself in the relationship beyond being a good friend to him, making sure he stays alive, and making sure that his connection with our children stays alive. And I'm really super grateful actually because all of the pirates came in and gave me more than enough evidence to back up what I already knew was happening, that they were openly trying to turn us all against each other, which is like, wow, it's that easy? It's that easy. That's fucking awesome. Anyways, thank you, it puzzles me. Oh yeah, I mean, what, I got nothing to lose and everything to gain. On top of that, I was thinking about my DM, Rudy, so like, here's the funny thing. He knows that I am very real about that. Like, I don't, honey, both of you, keep them. Keep them. Because you know what I realized very early on when I started to stay in my own lane and work on my own bullshit was that if he involved himself with exes of the past, with his first wife, with others, he was going to get stuck. And I know him. That's part of why I said, you need to go find yourself and grow up, because he was doing that in our 15-year relationship, and I would like to do some more stuff with my life than to just sit back and play with pirates, and potatoes. So the irony is, like, while y'all are trying to imitate me and pretend to be me but not be me and bully me and do all that stuff, you're basically confirming for him, you're providing the contrast for him that I was the best choice to have chosen, because I never would have trapped him or bullied him. In fact, the proof is in the pudding. Everybody on his end and even on my end said that where I went wrong was not forcing him to marry me when he first proposed, or doing it years before so that he would feel trapped with me. I am so fucking grateful to y'all for believing that and for providing the moments where I thought about it. I had my moments, and I still didn't choose that, because I have never been like any of y'all, and I never will be. And I love that about me. I'm grateful that y'all are like that, because what I realized early on, this is the brilliance of what y'all are doing. So long as I worked on me, just like I did when he and I were in relationship, and I keep building myself up, and even in staying single and independent, do you know how much he values that? He was always afraid that at some point in time we'd get married and the switch would flip and I'd start cheating on him, because that's what y'all pretty much did to him. And this proves, no matter how deeply sexual and kinky that I have always been, and he knows it, this is fucking beautiful and attractive. I've not been with anyone in 22 months. the whole time, and by choice for myself, not as a choice to beguile him, not as a choice to show you guys up. I did it for me. And that's what he's always found most attractive about me, right? In fact, he was one of the first people to tell me that I never had to worry about any of y'all because I'm different, you know? And yeah, I know. Well, yeah, no, trust me, I got stuff to say about my DM and my Rudy. He's got his sides, but you know what? I don't need to be another person telling him what he's doing wrong. The Karmics are doing it for more than enough for everybody. Not for me, because I'm not that type of person to harp on what's going wrong. I'm more likely to talk about either what's going right or why I'm grateful for the things that are not going right. That's me. I did used to be somebody that was always like, watch out, there's a hole in your plan or there's a flaw in your plan and stuff like that. And I don't even need to be that. He's got plenty of y'all, especially you, Tina, and you, Sheila, who sit there and tell him how he is wrong from the get-go, even when he has a good plan. One of my favorites. Okay, I'm going to say this. I got to get to the point. My oldest son has been telling me I'm cabot trailing a lot. I need to get to the point. So my point is this, before I go any further. I mean, I want him. I do. Flat out. Like, I don't even care that he's not fully healed yet. I don't care. Like, I'm not taking him. I'm not going to pursue him. I'm not going to go after him. Why? That would make me like you all. And it would defeat the whole fucking purpose of just being myself for me and knowing that that is what's bringing him to me, not me pursuing or forcing. It's that simple. And so here's the deal. Y'all can keep him. You feel like you own people, especially when you've got them in leases and marriages and shit like that, which quite frankly is really, like, y'all should go to some therapy for that. Like, I went to therapy. I can say, like, that's really a valuable place to go and work shit like that out. It's really not good. I mean, we got past the era when when it was acceptable for men to consider that they owned women. So we should view men the same way. Like, you can have your own kinky version of, like, I own you and we play jealousy games and stuff, but to really have an actual reality where you really consider that you own and are owned by somebody, that's kind of unhealthy. But I'm grateful for it. I really am, because here's the thing. Everybody told me that the best way to beguile Rudy would be to get with my own guy, do some pictures, do a bunch of devious dinners, and let him fall, abandon him, all that. But see, what I realized is that's bullshit. Because even if that was true, do you know how fucked up it is to do that? To somebody you say that you loved? To somebody that you say is your sibling? To somebody that you say that you care about? But then nobody, not a single fucking person, I ain't heard Tina or Sheila or any of his family ever say, you know what, yeah, he's a good person. You know what? I get that he's got himself into a mess. He has had that proclivity. Maybe it's time that I be a good sibling or a good ex or a good friend, and I help him out in ways he wants to be helped out, not ways that I think are appropriate to help him out. Maybe I should, I don't know, ask Rudy, would you like any help? And if he says no, like, just say, you know what, I'm down for it if you do. You know, it doesn't have to be a, this is my opinion and you should punish that person and this person and be more dicks to your kids and shit like that. Like, that's not very attractive, especially to Rudy. And I know, because 20 years is a long fucking time. 15 years is a long time being in a relationship, listening to that man bitch about y'all. Like, and how y'all treated him and stuff. So, by all means, keep him. Because it has been my great pleasure to have just been myself. The thing that I kind of got away from when I got depressed and stuff with him. Like, I mean, all the call-outs you guys have on me for not being the best parent in those times. You're right. You're right. And I'm grateful that I had that contrast, because it's such a difference to how I am now. And I love that I listened to him and I took his advice, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to follow my heart no matter how anybody, including him, feels about it. That's what he told me. And I said, that's some good advice. Thank you, honey. You know, and I've been doing that. And here's the great thing. Like, it's been 22 months. That man has been more jealous of the fact that I have not entwined myself into a relationship like his so that he could use that as his reason to beguile me or talk about my bad decisions or anything like that. He's a brat. I love that he's a brat. He was hoping that I would be like y'all so that he could do that, because that would confirm the reality that he had before and make him feel justice and righteous about it. And just never felt like it, you know? Like, I mean, I had moments that I was thinking about dating and stuff. It was more anxious attachment, though. It's more distraction. And then even when I let it go, people started coming towards me, and I'm still like, nah, I'm not ready yet. Like, I've always been honest. And first of all, like, to invite somebody new into this circus, like, I'm not gonna be I'm not gonna be like the Pirates. I'm not gonna be like y'all. I'm grateful that you are like this, though, because it shows me how to be a better person. I've always told Rudy that, like, you know what? I don't like the things that the Pirates do, but we should be grateful for them because they show what the opposite and appropriate, healthy response is. It's very easy. It's like a guidebook, right? And so I would never walk into a relationship with anybody, even on an FWB limit, even for a one night stand. I would never walk into that without at least giving them some amount of awareness that they might fall into a rabbit hole with me and it might lead to a circus of pirates and potatoes. And like, I mean, even if I could find somebody who would be willing to do that, then the question would be, do I do to them what Rudy did to me? Which is, I knew what I was getting involved in. He made sure that I was consciously, fully aware of every fucking facet before I agreed to it. And then he wouldn't shut up about it because y'all had nothing better to do than to try to torture him, bring him back in and out, love bomb, discard him, do all that stuff, ask him to pay all your bills so you could, what do you call it, rob Peter to pay Paul, to borrow from Mary. Like, all of y'all did it. And I'm not saying that there was no good stuff in there, but there really wasn't a whole lot. Like, it's really unfortunate, but that's part of what I'm grateful about is, like, these past 22 months, especially with his first and third wives, Sheila and Tina, having their ways and having their says and engaging with each other while everybody was telling me about what they were doing and who had a rivalry with who. And it was great. Like, I never even asked for a damn bit of information other than the one time of how did Tina get like that, because I don't believe that she just was born being an awful person in the way that you're describing to me, or the ways that I'm seeing her be with me and my children and my love and my divine masculine, you know, the father of my children. Like, it's within my own fucking lane to question that. But other than that, I never asked her a damn thing. I did want to talk sometimes about my feelings and what I was observing and try to, like, process, but I never asked her anything. And man, pirates gossip. They gossip so much. They'll share anybody's personal business. There's like no boundaries whatsoever in there. And they hardly ever stop and ask me questions, real questions. You know, and I mean, that's okay, but it's like, at any point in time, anybody could have asked me how I really felt about it, and I would have given them the genuine answer that, you know what, yeah, I want Rudy next to my side. I can own my shadow of possessiveness, like, even with him being immature and messed up and playing with y'all pirates, even though he gets hurt every fucking time, like, but I'm also okay with him not doing that. The way that our journey started was through all this nonsense with y'all, so I'm already comfortable with it. And it makes me feel really grateful that, like, I know through the evidence of 20 years, and specifically of the past 22 months, he's been far more jealous of the fact that y'all got him trapped, as I have multiple Facebook and text messages saying that he said that you did, that he felt like that. And that he missed me, and that he wished that y'all were more like me, and that he even played in his own bratty games to try to get back at y'all because there was no way to get away from y'all without feeling like you would be injured or he would be a jerk. Like, here, brat, too, that's funny. Yeah. Should we friend? Right? Well, you know, I mean, keep commenting. Maybe we'll become friends. I've had a lot of people tell me my life is like a movie or a book or a rom-com, and for a while I was like, no. And then I was talking to my oldest son, I was like, it kind of is. It's weird. But I'm grateful for it. Like, how many people, like, I want to say a lot of people have stories like these, but people don't talk about them because we still get caught in this old, like, Christian Catholicism shame of, like, you do sinful things. I'm pagan, by the way, but it's like, you do sinful things. You believe you're powerless to never stop doing sinful things, but then just nobody talks about it. And like me, I've got enough Scorpio placements, and I'm a Capricorn, so I'm pretty much I'm not a loner. Like, I'm in and out between the collective and being independent. So, like, I don't have any problem talking about it. I love our story. Like, yeah, okay. my decisions as a 15-year-old and 16-year-old, and even now as a 35-year-old, may not be what everybody else's morality says that it should be, but it's mine. And I'm happy loving myself through that. Like, I still remember when Rudy and I found an antique store when I took him down to Astoria, Oregon to get some of the world's best pizza. And there was a vinyl in there. I can't remember the band name, but there was a song called I'll Be the Other Woman. It's like, I'll be the other woman so long as I'm the only one. And I mean, what's funny is I never even told him that. Like, I'm open to so many things. Our therapist regularly said, like, I'm the least judgmental, the least, like, bothered by social norms and stuff like that. I'm really amazing. Like, and I can say that without any conceit. Like, a lot of people have told me that. And it's like, oh, that makes my heart warm and squishy in all sorts of wonderful ways. It used to make me feel squishy because I couldn't accept a compliment at all for anything. It felt so wrong. And now I'm just like, oh, I am pretty wonderful. Um, yeah, I think California, Oregon. Yep. So, anyways, back to my gratitude letter to Tina and Sheila. So, I mean, the longer you keep them, the better for me. Because part of the thing that he always loved about me, part of the reason that he got unhappy with our relationship is because I stopped being passionate about doing things I love for me. Doing my businesses, doing stuff with the kids, stuff like that. The other thing he really loved about me, and part of the reason why even after one of my favorite memories was when his first wife Sheila found out about me when I was pregnant. They were playing some sort of weird, bratty, unhealthy, toxic game with each other, and she decided to call me while she had him drunk. She used his phone and left a message on my voicemail. I'm 18 and pregnant, alone, minding my own business, and she wants to tell me how sweaty his balls are on my voicemail. I was like, oh, yeah, that's for sure. Like, but I mean, for the icky feelings that I had back then, now I'm in this place of like, that's, like, I get that story that she did that to me. Oh, man. Like, thank you. Anyways, I'm grateful because those were moments that we got to talk about. Same thing with the stuff that his siblings and others do. We got to talk about all that stuff, about how it's hurtful. And I got to, like, yes, I would have, it would have been nice to have had a story where, like, there was no, oh, what's the word for it? I said it on my Facebook the other day. I feel like such a harlot. But you know what? I love it in the Dolly Parton sort of way. Like, Dolly Parton says herself that her look is inspired by the town whore. When she was younger, she saw the town whore and she saw her dressed up beautiful and she liked it. She had big hair and she looked nice. She took care of herself. And she asked her mama, who's that? She said, that's the town whore. And, like, she grew up, and she's a Capricorn too. She knew that what that meant, and people told her what that meant, and she still loved the look so much that she took it on, and she, like, rocked it and made it through all her shadow work about people thinking maybe then she was the town whore, and she wasn't. She just liked the look and she went for it, and she's kept it pretty much ever since, and I fucking love everything about that. Also, Dolly Parton is extremely important to me and my DM and my family and his family and stuff like that, so it fits with me. And what do I got to worry about? What do I got to be ashamed of? I have never cheated on anybody, ever, in my life. Never. Not even once. And I think that's a pretty good fucking accomplishment. And we talked about this stuff in therapy, too, like different dynamics, polyamory, open relationships, monogamy, non-monogamy, ethical non-monogamy, ethical monogamy, and, like, non-ethical monogamy. Like, I'm open to all sorts of dynamics, and that includes him not wanting to be with me at all. Like, I mean, first of all, he's a Cancer. Like, he changes his mind every 3 days like the moon. So I'm not going to base anything on what's going on right now while y'all are bullying him. Like, if there comes a day when you guys are treating him well, and you're not running him into the ground and making him lose his house and ruining his relationships with his children and everybody else, I mean, then maybe then I'll have some feelings where it's like, maybe they'll keep him from me because they love him better. Maybe I'll have that. And I would feel grateful if that was an experience that happened to me. Be like, wow. I mean, it meant I was right, that they had it within them to treat themselves and people better. And also, oh, I was wrong. He wasn't, like, they weren't going to burn it down themselves. Like, that would be a cool experience. Especially considering the shit that everybody says about y'all and that you all have shown me yourselves. Like, that would be cool. It's not the one that I think it's going to happen, though. But here's the thing. Y'all have him trapped. You don't let him have access to his money. You've ruined his reputation. You're threatening to ruin his reputation more based on his trauma responses for y'all's bullshit and bullying and abuse. You've turned a bunch of kids around backwards on their heads and stuff, and like, that's not attractive. Even he said something to y'all, both of y'all, when it was his daughter and when it was Tina's kids, like, and our kids. Like, he is a good person. He does not like being trapped and treated that way. And he is, like, loyal to a fault, so you wouldn't even really need to do that. Like, and one of his biggest triggers is when people don't trust him. So, I mean, like, for one thing, it makes total sense to me, loving psychology and having worked on my own attachment traumas that we learned about in therapy and stuff. Like, I've watched it. The fearful avoidant attachment trauma that y'all have, or maybe rad yourselves. I know that Tina is still working to get her borderline managed, I hope. But like, there's a reason why it's not healthy to have eloped in only, like, it wasn't like, what was it? It was like 17 months. Like, that's pretty fast after both of y'all just got out of relationships. He didn't heal from his first stuff with Sheila, who got brought into all that stuff. He didn't have space or time, wasn't given it to heal over me stuff. Then all the entanglements that all of the pirates brought in with all the kids. Like, the whole reason that he ran away from y'all and met me on the day that we met in October 2001. It was the 29th. We can remember it because it was the day after he bought his favorite car that he still has. Because he was mad. Because y'all were using him and draining him and telling him he was crazy and cheating on him and doing all sorts of fucked up shit. And when he got emotional, you said he was bipolar or had 2 screws loose or was just a spoiled brat. Well, then he finally ran away and said, well, fuck it. And guess who he ran into? Me. And guess who was also experiencing similar things from my own pirate circus? Me. So I had empathy for the situation he was going through, and he had empathy for my situation, and he was always impressed that even at 15 I was not dramatic like everybody else. I think it scared him a little bit more, actually, kind of like I know that doing genuine gratitude and talking out loud about stuff really scares you guys. I don't even know why. I'm genuinely not trying to be scary. I'm just being honest. And I'm doing what is best for me and my kids, which is what y'all told me was the best thing to do, and everybody else. Like, that is the world's best wisdom on what do you do in situations like mine. You do what's best for you and your kids. So I am, because me talking about it is healing for me. I don't want to hold on to these secrets. I don't like that it happened the way that it did. I'm upset that we couldn't just work it out like mature adults, especially after 20 years of interactions. But I mean, like, I kind of love knowing that through y'all's own gossiping, I also know about the times you sat around talking shit about me, calling me Miss Cleo, as if that's a bad thing. Like, Miss Cleo, even if she wasn't authentically psychic, which I think that she was, but even if she wasn't, she was quite entertaining. And Rudy has a beautiful story of a time that he called Miss Cleo and he asked her about his future, and he really believed in that. And so I know, much in the way that his sister was hurt by Tina talking down about GEDs and shit, that's hurtful. And the fact that y'all would make fun of me for basically being authentic, real, and loving him at a distance in a respectful way, that's not going to say good things to him either. And here's the thing, like, not only is it unhealthy to have maintained the dynamics that y'all have maintained, like, for any of you, for any of us, like any of this shit, but it's going to end up in disaster, and I don't have to help any of that. I don't have to do any of it. All I have to do is what's best for me, which is being able to talk about it on my channel and my page, and not worrying about how anybody who has been doing some nasty pirate shit feels about it. Like, And I'm willing to take my lumps for it if any of them come. Scared or not, wanted or not, I am. That's the way that I am. But here's the thing though, I'm just going to keep glowing. I'm going to keep doing my thing. And what I keep picturing in my head, this is why I decided to stop and do this video before I went to get my hair cut. I have actually held back on not talking to my DM and not really glowing up. For one thing, because it was making him so envious and jealous. And I knew he was stuck in his, at least in his head, he felt stuck because of y'all's bullying and financial entrapments and war party building and shit like that, that he would probably feel very left behind if I did that. We used to, one of the first songs he ever shared with me, Ben Harper's By My Side. And in it, there's a line that says, "Don't you get ahead of me, and I won't leave you behind." Now, I went through some shadow work with that because it's kind of codependent. However, it really, really works in my favor in moments like this, because a lot of the lessons that he has learned in going backwards, because let's put it this way, he did not up level from me, not in any way. He went backwards into where he was. He even told me I could say I told you so because I called it when he first left, right? And that was recently. That was like a month and a week ago, so 5 weeks ago. It wasn't long ago. It was recently. And I have that conversation in text, so I can screenshot that. Like, he knows that he downgraded. And he got trapped and tricked in all the same ways. How do you think a guy feels about that? Especially with a gal like me who is doing the right thing, no matter what way you look at it. Who is in the right for the ways that you guys have been bullying me to and trying to build your reputations by knocking mine down. And constantly trying to get in the way of him simply having a healthy, natural, responsible, and safe co-parenting relationship with his children. So it's like, I know him. He hates the idea, especially after his father traumas, of being a deadbeat dad, of being a potentially abusive dad. Like, he hates that idea. He hated what happened to him and his daughter and stuff like that. To put him in that position again, I mean, let's be straight up. Clearly, he's not being a man if he's staying with y'all simply because you make him feel like a jerk if he wants to leave. And he's certainly not being a man if he's willing to listen to y'all tell him to be meaner and more cold to his oldest son, us. And he's clearly not being a man if he's not going to help his daughter when she gets hurt by her mother's roommates and shit, because the money needs to go elsewhere, because she might be dramatic. Gee, I wonder why. Like, how do you think he's going to feel about that? And then on top of that, I get to talk about it because I don't have any allegiances to the rest. And if you guys are going to take him out and try to, like, make it so that I'm the bad guy, then what impetus do I have for not just doing my healing and not worrying about how y'all feel about it? I'm actually grateful for that, because I know that in trapping him and putting him in situations to be embarrassed like this, like whether it is me who is talking about it or not, y'all created those embarrassing situations. You did. He's the type of guy that listens to people like you and then later goes, I just did what you told me, right? And even if he's grown enough not to say that, it's still true. He wouldn't have made these decisions on his own. He wouldn't, in fact, the decisions he made on his own were to keep flirting with me, to keep bringing up kink, to keep trying to talk about our relationship, while I was like, can we talk about the kids? Can we talk about people at your house having healthy boundaries so that the kids want to be over there and don't feel odd and uncomfortable while your girlfriend is insecure and trying to suck face with you while they're trying to talk to you? Like, you know, a good mother does, a good friend does. Like, and if anybody ever would have asked me, I was prepared for it. I so thought that there would be face-to-face conversation or confrontation since the day that Tina told me she wanted to kick my ass because I wanted to hug my DM. Just a hug. Not even a, like, ooh, sexy hug. Just a friend hug. I was expecting to have this conversation face to face long ago and to be like, woman, girl, more girl, here's the deal. I'm not going to lie to you and say, oh, I don't want him and shit just because you're in my face. What I'm going to say is, I'm not a threat to you because I asked him to go grow and find himself. If that needs to happen with you, that's fine with me. I'm not going to get in the way of that because, one, that makes me like you all. Two, it defeats the purpose of the healing actually happening. And three, I would not have this beautiful story right now if y'all weren't doing what you were doing, where I have literally, he's thanked me multiple times for not ever being as dramatic, even in this stuff that I've been doing, as his first wife, Sheila, or his current person, Tina, who he says is like his youngest sister, who everybody says is super dramatic, and in her bullying that you just shouldn't listen to her because she's just dramatic, which I would think would make a person more dramatic. In fact, it does, and that's fucked up. In any case, early on, I already made this decision that if y'all were going to try to take him, because you were working on him the minute that he put that proposal on Facebook, and I was completely aware of it. We talked about it. It's part of why we got to the separation first. Like, we realized in therapy and through looking at all of the things you were doing, with the therapist agreeing with me that you all were trying to fuck with us and break us up and do shit like that. And I could have done like y'all did. I could have said, you know what, we're going to get married and you're going to knock all this shit off and they're trying to manipulate you. Instead, I said, you know what, if you still feel like you need to learn these lessons more, then our path is going to diverge for a while because I need to put the kids first and I would like to be doing something else with my life other than living paycheck to paycheck arguing with pirates. And it was said in many, many more words. It would be delightful if I was able to have said it that gracefully back then. But I said it in enough of a way that even when I go back and look at the evidence, because I typed it out in a Facebook message where I even annotated everything later, it was an interesting fight. It's one of his favorite fights. I felt so bad about it, and he's sitting there laughing, going, you know what? I hate that you chewed me out, but I love that you used annotated notes to do it. I was like, I was mad. Like, anyways. But see, that's the difference, though. Y'all try to go and take other people's kids or make new kids or take money or be bullies or threaten people. I'm much more likely just to leave a really long annotated note version of conversations and point shit out that is fucked up. That's me, right? I'm much more likely to get on here and love on y'all. Like, I got time. I'm a Capricorn and I got things to do. So it does not bother me. It puts no stress or weight on me to add in some extra videos and stuff loving on y'all because it's something I regularly think about. Because when he first left, I started listening to people who were wiser than me and doing things like release your exes and releasing resentment and releasing bitterness and doing full moon rituals where it was all about healing myself. It was all about me. And you know what I realized was so fucking delightful? I remember a friend that I used to talk about, that we'd talk about all the weird and interesting ways that my DM Rudy would act and respond even when I wasn't doing anything, even before I started over texting him because I knew y'all were abusing him. But the great thing is like, I remember talking with all of them, including people on his end, his own siblings and everything, saying, girl, you could do so much with your life, even if you don't want to go in a relationship, because I never sat for that you could do so much better than him. Yeah, I could. But you know what? I like him. And I'm not judgmental like that. I don't need a fucking doctor or a lawyer to feel good about who I'm with. I don't need somebody that makes a bunch of money. He had zero fucking money when I met him. He lived in multiple rundown cars that were around the city because of how y'all terrorized him. So, like, I don't need all that fucking 3D shit. I don't need a marriage title. I don't need a relationship title. And I can feel however I want to fucking feel about it and still be completely, entirely respectful of any relationships that he's in. If I want to be. If that's the best thing for me. Right? And so, I'm really grateful because the longer y'all keep him, the more miserable you make him. Especially now that he's got our 10-year-old who he has to protect from y'all's pirating, the better it is for me. because that's more time to prove I was never the one trying to sabotage any of what any of y'all had or were doing. In fact, I felt better in talking about it, knowing that each pirate who was the one who tried to get in the way of each of y'all's affairs and crimes and shit like that, that they told me that they did it. Like, it's like, you know, I almost, it's like the movie Maverick, which is one of my one of Rudy Bug's favorite movies that he watched over the past 22 months. And there's two lines in it that we both love. The first one is in the beginning where, you know, Maverick, as Mel Gibson as Maverick, sits down at the table and he says, "Oh, can I deal in? I promise I'll lose for the first hour," right? And he does. And then he decides that then it's been an hour, he's been watching his clock, and then he starts winning and sweeping the table, and everybody gets pissed. And he says, "Well, you know, somebody accused him of cheating," and he says, "I never cheat. I hardly ever bluff. Hardly. But I never cheat." And I told you that. Like, he literally did tell them that in the beginning. And he's like, "What did you think I was doing that first hour?" "I was learning your tells. I was learning your bluffs." And you know what's funny is it's because of that movie that years ago, I haven't gambled in a long time, but years ago I got good at playing Texas Hold'em because my mom loved that movie. And I thought that was fucking brilliant. Go in and lose for a while, figure out everybody's tells and bluffs, and then you know how to win. And I've won a lot of times like that, right? The other part in that movie is near the end when they're like enjoying that they totally like tricked and did a whole bunch of stuff to the bad guys, like that, like they were saying there's nothing better than cheating a cheat. And it kind of, I mean, you know what's funny, like if we look at our cultural movies and books and things like that, like you have some that are just about a good guy or a good gal being good and then winning because they are good, and then you have others where there are good guys who are like, if you blind them up with like an angel, they would certainly not be the good guy, but in the story they're still the good guy because like look at Dexter or whatever, like he takes out other bad guys, you know, or same things with the superheroes, Batman, Spider-Man, all of that. Like violence is never good, vigilante stuff is never good, however they are still good guys because the system, it does not always work that way, right? And so it's kind of an example of that, like everybody has a part and a place. And for me, I know not only through the 20 years of knowing my Rudy Bug, but also just from the past 22 months of y'all still playing the same lame games you've been playing since middle school. Running off this like maladaptive coping mechanism idea, like sexist very much, that all women are the same and all men are the same, and that if people don't fit into that specific mold, then they're not a man or they're not a woman or they're tricking you or whatever. I don't know. It's amusing to me. It's like, really? Wow, that seems like a painful world to live in. Like, okay. But I love it because the past 22 months gave me the answers that I was looking for when I called for separation, which is one, does he actually love me? Is he capable of loving me unconditionally in a similar way that I feel for him? Two, is he capable of having boundaries with y'all that are good for him first? And that would make it so that he was capable of a healthy, actual relationship with me, the kind that he was not really ready for 15 years ago when we got into a relationship, and still most definitely was not when he ran to go save Tina 22 months ago. So I know, psychologically speaking, this is not psychic shit. This is science. Okay? He has attachment traumas. He has attracted people with attachment traumas. I've been watching for 20 years, not because I wanted to, but because y'all didn't have anything better to do than to keep these cycles going. He would have allowed them to go if y'all had allowed them to go. Anyways, I'm still grateful though, because this is a hilarious story to me. I'm like, wow. I mean, as a writer, like, no better material than real life at this point. But here's the thing, like, y'all go in these cycles to where eventually he runs out of money and energy and the ability to keep placating y'all, and then you hurt him and you discard him. That's why he came to me every time that he did. Yeah, there were times that I sought him out too, But typically, when we either synchronistically ran into each other, or when he called me, or had he called his friend to have him call me, it's because y'all were doing that over and over and over again. And part of where I got upset with him, why I asked him to have boundaries with y'all, otherwise we would separate, was because it's fucked up. And really, like, because of his own traumas, you guys are even more fucked up about it because he clinically has challenges saying no because of the way that he grew up. And y'all know that, at least. I want to say it's more than just subconsciously. You know it because you exploit it. And the proof is in the pudding. I mean, if he was not being abused, then he would have no reason not to talk to me. If he was not being blackmailed or abused and things like that by both of y'all, there would be no reason for him not to be celebrating the relationship that he's in and the friendships that he's had with y'all. There would be no reason for any of it to be hidden. There would be, like, the parenting plans would have already been done. There would be no reason why I wouldn't be, like, hanging out at a barbecue being like, yeah, memories, right? You know, there wouldn't be. There would be no reason to have tried to intentionally hurt our oldest son in order to make me, feel worse about y'all's bad decisions? I really don't understand that one. Was it to intentionally hurt him? Because, like, he's a kid. And y'all have done enough of that already. So, like, it makes me feel really grateful that even though I don't like that you did that, like, do you know how much better of a mom that proves that I am? That I would never fucking do that to him or any of the other kids? And even of the things that I did that were piratey or potatoey to my own kids, none of them, they all pale in comparison to what y'all have done. That's why I have no problem talking about it. I did really very little wrong, especially considering I was younger than all of you, because I met him at 15 and we didn't get into official relationship until I was 20. So, like, if anything, even though I really believe I have been the most conscious and the most aware of things, and I hold myself accountable for making the decision to allow myself to be involved with a man who's been involved with pirates like y'all who take advantage of every motherfucker you can, like, still, let's look at the reality. I was the youngest. Y'all were older than me, some of you by 10 to 15 years. Y'all should have been the ones who were more mature far before me, and since y'all are the ones that created those situations, like right now, where everybody's going, oh, but he has a new family, like, that doesn't delete the old family. I never told him to stop talking to his first wife. Sheila, to you, I never told him that. In fact, I didn't even bring up boundaries until, like, 13 years into it, you know, like, I always told him, look, no matter how frustrating she is, no matter how challenging things are, she is your daughter's mother, and that makes her important. You can ask him. I did say that, right? And anytime there was a challenge, that's what I said. And that's why y'all were able to have a somewhat peaceful relationship where I still remember all the time, like, the only time he ever got a call from his daughter was when you'd pick fights with her and make it feel like her fault that you were being piratey. And then there was the only ever time that he ever really got to spend with her, you encouraged her to ask him for a shit ton of money to go spending. And then he felt like that was the only way he really could express love to her. Because if he got any sort of, like, appropriate emotional attachment with her or her with him as father and daughter, you would ruin it. You would tell him he's a horrible dad. You would blame me. You would blame our oldest son, like, all that stuff. And, like, I don't like that. I really do beat myself up that I never fucking really stood up for y'all's daughter. I really do. Like, that's fucked up of me that I let that happen. But at the same time, like, in this moment here, like, I mean, what good would it do to beat myself up for something that, yeah, like, I can only do better from here on out. So in order to get there, you know what? I feel grateful about that because y'all have been the reason that I've chosen to be better. Like, not to beat anybody, but because I didn't want my own kids to grow up being told that anytime they have emotions, they're dramatic or unstable. I didn't want them to feel like they could never tell me no or that they were mad at me. You can ask Rudy and even look at my Facebook. I have so many messages from Joey, my little Leo Scorpio, who, like, my favorite was before he could really text words, he sent me a paint picture of a face in red, and it was an angry face. And I remember, and I think he even said, I hate you at one point, because I told him that he could not have, like, extra cake for dessert. It was something really silly. And he gets that from y'all and from my parents. So, like, but I remember Rudy was amazed that I wasn't mad about that. I was like, why would I be mad about that? He's just expressing an emotion, and I'm human. I'm gonna make him mad sometimes. I'd rather have him feel safe telling me that he feels mad at me. Especially because, like, I had moments of that growing up where I would have loved to, but had the safe space to be able to communicate to my parents how, they were making me feel and stuff like that. And I didn't get that. And I know, right, Sugar Bub? I know that he did not get that. Like, I've literally looked and been observing how everyone else does it, not to, like, get anything on anyone else, not to be better than them, but to correct my own parenting, to heal that within me that reflected anything that y'all did. The yelling, the bullying, the gotta make them be tough, the pretending that I never do anything wrong, the never letting them express anything other than gratitude for you. Like, the whole reason right now that I can even be comfortable with y'all trying to convince my 10-year-old that I'm, like, unstable or hurting your feelings by telling the truth is because he and I have had so many conversations. And I'm an astrologer. I'm aware of his proclivities as a Leo sun, a Scorpio rising, and stuff like that. And he knows that it is far safer to lie to me. As I told him that it's fine. I said, I get it. It's an unsafe situation. I don't prefer lying, but if you feel safer lying in that situation, then I will never be mad at you for it. I get it. And I trust you. And I know that he would only do that if he saw that his dad was actually in trouble. And considering that he's the one that pointed out to his dad that his current wife, Tina, was stalking them when they went to the store, which is like, woman, you already got him. And it was our 10-year-old who pointed it out and proved that it was, right? So, like, I don't like that I have not spoken to him in going on over a week. I don't like that he's being lied to, but he's also not stupid. He's very smart. I've had people in different spiritual communities ask me if they could talk to him about stuff that you almost wouldn't usually expect even like a 50-year-old to understand. And when it went well, they told me that he is very special. Intellectually, spiritually, all that stuff. Like, I have so much faith in him. And I know that because I have been a very emotionally stable mother for him, despite all of y'all's pirating, which I'm grateful for, right? Like, look at that contrast. Look at the story I get to have. Look at all the empathetic parenting videos that I've created that have been based on what y'all did that hurt everybody, and then me experimenting with how to do better and finding ways that were easy enough to communicate to other parents who also wanted to improve their parenting and be more empathetic to their kids and end those cycles. Like, how could I not be grateful for y'all? Yeah, it would have been nice if the story went a little more maturely, especially after y'all hit your 40s. Because one of your favorite things to always tell me is, well, I'm blah, blah, blah years old. I'm older than you. You don't understand. Well, where is that now? Where is that now when the most mature thing to do would be to say, you know what, we were fucked up to you. And we've been fucked up to all of our kids and our friends and everything, and you're right. We really should work to be more mature and more secure, and to not feel threatened by the fact that you always had genuine feelings to Rudy, and that you are simply keeping them without being disrespectful at all to anybody. And then on top of that, to even own at the times that I have been intentionally disrespectful, well, turnabout is fair play. And especially if y'all are going to be pirates and intentionally try to send people to steal my stuff and hurt my person and try to keep my kid from me, like, if I am, and there's been moments, I own it, intentionally disrespectful, the only way for you to say what I'm doing is wrong would be to admit that what you did to me was wrong. Otherwise, there's nothing wrong with it, right? But my favorite thing, too, is, like, I always told Rudy, and I told everybody else, like, if I was going to be dramatic, I would never do drama like anybody else did. For one thing, naturally, it's not in my nature to do drama like that. Two, like, do you know how many different arguments I had with Rudy where he was like, well, Sheila used to do that to me, and when she did that, she was actually cheating on me, and so when you do that thing, it makes me afraid that you're going to be like her, even though I'm aware that you're not her. And, like, do you know how many times I even heard stories about Tina early on, like, she tried to trap me early on, the baby, that's what my sister said, and then doing this and that, and, like, I could never make a move without being compared to everybody in his past. That's part of what drove me nuts. Was like, I'm not allowed to determine my own intentions. If I ever do anything that is remotely similar to ways that you guys have heard him, that's a big thing. Like, we went through a lot of therapy for this stuff. I'm really grateful we did. I'm grateful because we both got tested for a whole number of things, and I'm glad to know he's a person. And that actually, he doesn't even have anything that he can't heal from. He just keeps listening to y'all. But that's fine, because we can put credit where credit is due. Yeah, he's not really being a man in doing that stuff, but he's listening to you all, and you all are making the decisions for everybody, which means all the credit goes to y'all, including me having these beautiful conversations to talk about on my channel, where a lot of other people are resonating with the kinds of ways that y'all are behaving, because they're not original and they're not new. And I mean, why wouldn't I be grateful for that? Especially looking at, like, Spirit told me up to 21 months, right? So we're already like at 22 months. So it, when he agreed and consented to me doing all of this as he did, because I don't do anything without talking about it first, he accepted, right? And at that point in time, we were at almost a perfect 21 months. And I didn't know this at first, because the plan is there is no plan, because why would there be a plan? I don't need a plan. I'm just being me. But, like, I thought about that, and I remember how torn up I was in the first few months about the idea of another day. And now I'm looking at 21 months. Like, it'll probably happen way sooner than that. Not because anything that I'm going to do, but because you guys are going to follow your natural cycles, because for whatever reason you get offended when somebody says, maybe you want to grow, maybe you want to be more mature than that, maybe you don't want to hurt other people like that, I don't know, but whatever. It's more amusing to me, because, like, Rudy is the type of person that hates being held back. He hates himself for placating. He hates being seen as a shitty father. He hates being seen as a shitty friend. He hates knowing that everybody else knows that y'all are abusing him and using him and using other people and being pissed and being fucked up to your own families. Like, he does not like that. But here's why I'm grateful if you continue on it, which is why it's like, I don't know, another year, another 10 years, 21 months, 21 years, I don't care. Because what I know about him is that the more I let go of him, the more I release him for real, not in a hateful way, because that's not my way. And I don't feel that way about him. I can release him by having full faith that he is now man enough, because he's gone through enough healing and enlightenment cycles despite your best efforts, which it was not me. I did not lead him there. He went there himself and shared it with me. The books he shared with me were great. The articles he shared with me were great. The profound inner awakenings were great, right? And so the more you keep him, the more he up levels in your imprisonment of him. And here's the thing, like, since you got him to technically give up emotionally, and you got us to have enough fights where he probably thought that I gave up on him, instead of realizing I was just trying to get y'all to stop being so fucking insecure about me when I have no intention to take him from you. I knew that I've known multiple times that I could have. Like, he's the one that's shown me, like, I could have. And that's what makes me laugh now, even about, like, I could totally do these romantic gestures and still also not be pursuing and not be doing anything, because it defeats the whole purpose of him learning to stand up for himself, of him seeing how y'all really are. Like, if I sit there and tell him all day long, then it's just me being a jealous ex, right? Then it's just me trying to get in the way. But if I actually release him with full love and just do my own thing and have full faith that he's already aware. He already told me. Like, why do you think we got to where we are, where I'm sitting here talking about it? I am not kidding when I say that he consented. Like, I didn't have a big plan, and this wasn't on my list of plans, but, like, I told him I was going to completely beguile everybody, that it's my turn to be selfish for up to 21 months, and that because he said he wanted hugs again but didn't want me to misunderstand, I knew what he really meant was that he wanted secret hugs so that his jailers would not be offended about it, and instead said, you know what, during my 21 months there will be no hugs for you, because you have clearly forgotten what the fuck a hug means. Mwah. You know, that's me. That's me. He loves that. Why do you think he keeps running back to my house and running to me and keeps talking to me and will not do the mean, harsh stuff that you guys are trying to push him into, which, by the way, could get him in a lot of trouble? Then what? Like, then what happens when you get between us enough that nobody gets the kids and they have to go into foster care and experience the abuses that y'all went through, that you now use as excuses for your reasoning for being fucked up to your own children and ours and every adult in your paths, and then complain that you never get a break in life and nobody's your friend and nobody supports you and all this stuff. And it's like, in the past I was triggered by that, like, that's horrible and why don't they change themselves? But now I'm like, oh, please keep being that way. Please keep being that way. I love getting the random text from Rudy saying they're driving me crazy and I'm trapped and I'm jealous that you're doing so well and that you have not gotten entangled into a relationship. I'm jealous that even though, yeah, sure, you don't have the house in the 100-acre woods, you're doing better than me. And just think about it. Like, you guys were trying to keep him somewhat attached to me so that you could use me to cheer him up when y'all drain him. And you have forced him. It was not his decision to stop being friends with me. We were doing just fucking fine until y'all got insecure about it and then tried to get into his head about it, suggesting I was doing some weird fucking spell work. Well, honeys, I don't have to do spell work. I don't. What reason do I have to when I know that he will come to me because I'm like a match for him and I'm amazing? Like, why would I need to do anything? The story is so much better the longer you keep him. You know what I mean? The longer you continue being the way that you are. Like, he's not healthy enough. He wasn't healthy enough when he left me to say no to a clear trap. Even after y'all scammed him for another $1,500, even after y'all proved to be aggressive drunks by his own words, and crazy, and narcissists, and leeches. Those are some of my favorite terms, like Rudy terms, like, wow, I wouldn't even have gone there. You know what I mean? All right. I offered maybe vultures, because vultures to me are a part of the greater circle, and they are birds of prey, even though they're scavengers. And he said, no, vultures will pick you clean. Leeches just keep on sucking. And I was like, that's not good. But I still kept my mouth shut because, you know what? I'm a lady. And my mama taught me to be ladylike. I resisted it for a long time, but I've really been enjoying exploring that with my friends, on my own, not needing to entangle with other relationships because I'm not like y'all. And that's where Rudy has always said that he would like to have been. And so, I mean, the more you keep him, the more you bully him, the more you abuse him. For one, the more evidence you provide that I'm right. For two, I mean, I don't understand what you think that you're winning by doing that to him. I mean, to me, the greatest thrill in being with him was all the times, like when he asked to go to his first wife, Sheila's dad's house when her dad was passing. That was one of my favorite memories because, I mean, did I want him around her? No, not really. But I also know that he was going to come home to me, and then she'd beguiled him a bunch of times, and he still came back to me, so I was not insecure about it. Also, that was a big part of his life, and I acknowledged that. I told him that. Like, he told me he would not go if I was uncomfortable with it, and I was like, I appreciate that, but you know what? If you want to go, I want you to go. And so he did, and he got to say goodbye to her dad and do that stuff. And he invited me to go with him. I didn't even need to. I, quite frankly, didn't really want to go. But I didn't want to say no because it felt like he wanted me there to support him in some sort of way. But I also recognized it was not my place, my house, my family, stuff like that. So I spent most of my time on the front porch just smoking cigarettes and looking at my phone, going in to be social here and there, chatting with her mom and stuff like that, and just being social. And she came out at one point, and she said, I just want to tell you, bye, Sugar Puff, have fun. But she came out, his first wife, Sheila, ex now, but I like going first, that I'm second, and then Tina's third, and if I'm right, then I'll also be the fourth. Or maybe he'll have another one and they're in the middle. I don't know, that would be amusing. Like, anyways, she came out and she told me that she was impressed that I not only allowed him to go, but I was like completely drama free. The thing that she doesn't realize is that like I knew that was not exactly a compliment. That was a check to see if I really was mad. And the funny thing is it got confirmed for me. Well, I want to say in the in 2020 when he said that Sheila and Ivy were over at his house and Tina was upset, but like being busy, like I'm cleaning, I'm doing things, I'm doing stuff with the kids, and that his first wife Sheila and his first girlfriend Ivy, who was like Tina was the original rebound to, were there going, is she mad? What's she upset about? And he's sitting there going, no, and don't make her mad. Which, by the way, abusive relationships, you tend to say that when you're in them. But it was the mean girl stuff. And I was like, see, she's doing that. That's interesting. And look at how I passed that test because I'm not insecure like that. I wonder why Rudy's always found his way back to me. Gee, I wonder. And here's the thing, like, I talk with our therapist, I talk with lots of people, I talk with relationship experts and stuff because it was on my mind and I love them and I wanted to understand why we got to where we are. There has never been any one of them that have ever said, even tarot readers, astrologers, charts I've looked at, nobody has ever said that I ever need to worry about him not trying to come back and be with me, considering that y'all have made me look way better than I probably naturally was before, which helped my self-esteem a lot. And the thing is, though, even just with codependence, the fact that y'all didn't give him room to actually heal and then intentionally traumatized him more. Sheila, I am kind of grateful to you. The way that you traumatized him and y'all's daughter, and then even your love boy in that, like, I would never do that. Never. I don't even, well, Tina might, I don't know. Y'all are pretty similar, but I would never do that. And, like, so to be in the position now to where it's like, y'all want to sit there and say, I'm trying to get him back. Honey, why? Why would I need to? Y'all are doing just a beautiful fucking job. And as he's continued to level up on his own, guess who he thinks about? Every time he holds a healthy boundary. Every time he stands up for himself. Every time he does a good act as a father with our son. Every time. And here's the thing, too. Just like I know that my Joey, our 10-year-old, feels safer not talking to me for a while, even though he knows you guys are full of shit, because I'm a safe person to have emotions with. I'm an understanding person. I know exactly what's going on over there because not just Rudy has told me, y'all have told me, and everybody else has told me. So I know, and I have evidence, so I don't need to guess. I know what's going on. I know the patterns, and I know that y'all have resisted growing for whatever. I don't even get it. Like, why? Just to say that you didn't? I don't know. It only helps you and your kids and your partners and everything, and it gives you those feel-good feelings of, I'm a good person, right? Instead of having to hide and juggle all sorts of things, like whatever. It puzzles me. I'm glad you're back. So, I mean, it's just one of those, like, why would I need to? And I've told, this was my, not my gripe, because I don't really have gripes, but this was my commentary in the beginning, was like, all of y'all pirates have been sitting there acting like because I've been authentic about my feelings about him and healing in my own manner at my own time, and I'm actually genuinely a really cool, nice, kind, and understanding person who didn't judge y'all before either. Y'all have taken it to mean that I'm obsessed with him or trying to get him back, but I mean, time proves it for me. Was it True Colors? And time after time, like, I don't need to. I told him that. He invited me into the drama a couple times. He wanted to have my car over there to be fixed so that he could make Tina jealous and all that. And I said, you don't need my help. You know what I mean? Oh, thank you. Thank you. It puzzles me. I'm glad that the content's helping. That's part of the other thing, too. Why wouldn't I be grateful to these people? And to you, Sheila, and to you, Tina, and even Ivy. Why wouldn't I be grateful? I was amazed that in telling my story and sharing it and with my own feelings and my own authenticity, that it helps so many people. And because you all have been the contrast, like, you know, it's like what not to do, how not to treat a man, how not to treat a woman, how not to treat your children, how not to treat the new partners of your ex-partners, how not to treat your husbands and wives, how not to treat anybody. And I made so many good decisions. Like, there's a book I'm going to write called A Series of Great Decisions, because that was an energy thing that happened multiple times, including leading to this moment right here. Because I'm not worried about what happens right now. I'm not worried about anything, to be honest. You know what I'm worried about is where's the next bathroom? And if there isn't a bathroom, where can I pull over and pee discreetly where I will not bother anybody? That's what I'm worried about. That's about it. The money flows in when it needs to. There isn't much right now, but I know that that's because I'm supposed to be doing content, doing stuff like this, so I'm not worried about it. Like, the other stuff will even itself out. Like, I trust my son to be able to discern when people are bullshitting him and to be able to tell me if he wants to come home. As long as he doesn't, and I have no reason to continue to other than to continue to trust him and to trust his dad, Rudy, my DM, that if it's as bad as y'all say and that he has said, then our son will not be there very long. Either he will not want to be there, or it will be revealed that y'all were lying to him and or bullying him into being quiet or trying your victim mode shit about, oh, your mom's being mean to me, without owning that y'all have been completely openly disrespectful to me intentionally, and only because me existing makes you feel insecure, which is, I mean, I'm so grateful. I've never felt that way in my life before until this last year, when multiple friends from different communities pointed out to me how much time y'all have dedicated to trying to get Rudy away from me. It's like, I mean, I know a combination of it was y'all were thinking, like, he's amazing. He's fucking amazing. And if people would have left him alone to grow on his own, he could have be showing the world right now. To me, he's still amazing because, like, carrying multiple families on his back that aren't even his own just so that he doesn't feel like they might fail without him, I think that's pretty fucking righteous. It's codependent, it's kind of boring, and and more than that, I feel bad for him because I know him. We even talked about it in the beginning. Cabby loves real easily. Like, he falls in love real easy. And when you guys, I feel like you already have revealed, because when he told me he knows the difference between want and need, and that y'all are leeches and narcissists and shit, like, I knew that he knew. It was just a matter of getting up the courage and the energy, at which point y'all started having constant parties and emergencies and keeping him constantly awake all at night. Tina would rarely put the sheet on the bed and, like, caused all sorts of emergencies. The tonsillitis one was one of my favorites, like, out of nowhere, randomly. It's when he called her a hypochondriac, and I was like, oh boy, you found what? Ooh. Like, I thought you were going to try to make me jealous by getting an up level from me, and she promised that she would be more amazing than me, and I tell you, I've always been amazing, but I had some problems, like, in terms of just ladylikeness, finesse, class, even my own, I've always been more secure than y'all, but I still had insecurities. Y'all definitely, between the bullying and the way that y'all have been with kids, yeah, oh yeah, I've been afraid. I've been insecure. I worried about this stuff happening. But I'm really glad that instead of being like y'all and trapping him into marriage, I said, no, if you're not done with those lessons, go learn them. And I'm so grateful right now. Because not only am I not tangled up in that bullshit anymore, not only do I get to talk about my feelings and the truths of what really happened at my liberty, I get to be here and see that I am the kind of person who would feel grateful for all this stuff. I'm the only one among y'all. Not the people watching, but y'all pirates watching. Like, I'm the only one that would choose that. And that's pretty amazing. Like, anybody could have chosen that. Anybody at any point in time could have stood up and said, you know what? I have been a pirate in the past, and I want to own that I've hurt people, and I want to apologize for it, especially to my children, and I'm going to be a better person because it's better. But no, all of you wanted to sit there and let people believe that I was the one who tattled on y'all because of one fight I had with Rudy, where I did ask the police to come and deal with him because he was drunk and being inappropriate. Not abusive, just inappropriate. And I am more mature than that, and I was not about to play that game. So just because of that one time, and the fact that I am the type of person who is good enough that I would have done it if I was not dealing with my own codependence of not wanting to lose him. So y'all wanted to throw me under the bus and say that it was me that was ratting everyone out when it was not. I just loved being able to out who really told on who about what, and who really said what about who, because y'all are crazy to each other. And I never participated in it. I had my moments of venting and emotional times and some trauma responses, but I always reeled myself back. I always found a healthier option. I got community, and like, I'm so grateful for me. You know? And then to think about it, like, yeah, I mean, Rudy's 43 now, and I'm 35. I really would prefer to be doing more interesting things right now than talking about this drama. But really, I mean, y'all wanted to keep me in it. You wanted to bind me in through the vows. You wanted to do magic to try to keep him and get rid of me and stuff. Like, you clearly want my attention. And I realized earlier, too, in talking with my oldest son, I kind of have this weird superpower that people really like to be praised by me, and they hate to be disappointed, for me to feel disappointment with them. And so it's kind of one of those, like, gee, if you want praise instead of disapproval, maybe you should give it just as often as you expect it. And maybe you shouldn't throw other people under the bus. And maybe you should find your way to gratitude. That was one of my favorite conversations when Rudy and Tina first had their big breakup moment. She was supposed to go to Cali to deal with her scam that she had going on in Cali and her ex-boyfriend. But she didn't want to go alone because she was afraid that her ex in Cali would shoot her. So she demanded almost $2,000 for Rudy to be able to rent stuff, to be able to go down there. And quite frankly, he was smart enough to not want to get into any of that. But then it became all sorts of other fights, all sorts of inappropriateness, and then suddenly she was able to go to California. Gee, it was suddenly open. And that the text that he sent me that I love more than anything was, well, I guess she just has to go back to Cali because she can't be grateful for the blessings that we have here. Oh, well. I loved that message. I felt bad because I loved that message, because I'm like, you're being an asshole. Like, but I also loved it because if you're gonna be an asshole or a brat, I would rather have you go for the gratitude than going for trying to knock down another person. I was proud of him. That was a growth moment for him, and it made me laugh because it's like, oh, I get that. Part of the reason that he's stuck where he is, or not really stuck, but why he's telling himself he's stuck, is because he could not be grateful with me. That was another one of my bits of feedback, was like, when you walk in the door lately, because you're entangled with your first wife and these other pirates and things you don't like, you're usually complaining the minute you walk in the door. And I would really like you just to come in and be like, hey honey, I love you, I did this really great thing today, did you do something great today? And then let's talk about your gossip. Then let's talk about your venting. And also, emotional dumping without asking someone for consent to be able to do it first is rude. Like, and it's funny because I know that he absolutely adores how I am both the most relaxed person ever about most things, the least judgmental, and also I like high protocol stuff like that. That's why I'm his dom, too. That's why he won't give back my cuss and collar that he keeps wrapped around the stuffy that I gave him, because he still thinks of me as his dom. And I think that says some beautiful fucking things, that he has that stuffy on his bed, right above his head, and he hugs it every morning and every night, and no matter what I have done to try to get it back, including talking about it, he does not want to give it back. I asked him specifically to give it back recently, like 5 weeks ago, because he did that with the car that I was driving that was still in his name. And I said, so on the basis that you were a brat and you spitefully took the car back from me only because Tina was feeling insecure and you were mad that you owed me money on the phone bill and didn't want to have to pay it because it made her mad. So on the basis that it's okay for you to take back your car that we were using, me and the kids and stuff, the only one that I had to be driving with, because as you said, it's mine, and I don't like the way you're treating it, then I have every right to ask for my cuffs and collars back, because they are mine. They are linked to our DS relationship. I don't like the way you're treating them or where you have them. And when I uncollared you the first time, because you were being a brat, when I gave them back to you, I made you, well, I didn't make you, I communicated that they were always mine. They were a symbol of our DS dynamic. And so long as you had them, as long as he had them, that meant that we were still in a DS dynamic. And I love the fact that he refuses to give them back. And when I said that to him, you know what he said? He said, I'll mail them back to you stitch by stitch. That's my Rudy Bug right there. Because that communicates to me he still loves me. He's still trying to figure out how to get out of it. He doesn't want to give up on that dynamic. He knows that I'm totally in the right. He appreciates everything that I'm doing. And on top of that, he's bratting y'all by keeping that around. As far as I know, he still hasn't washed it. It still smells like us. And I know that Tina has worked really hard to belittle him, to try to get rid of him, to try to replace him with a llama stuffy, to try to bring in her dino dog toy and stuff. Like, I'm so grateful. That is hilarious. Like, I've always wanted to get into stand-up comedy, and lately, like, Spirit's been saying, do it, like, do it, just, like, do it. And the reason I didn't before is because I've always found this stuff hilarious, but I didn't want to do it because I felt like Rudy would be embarrassed. But here's the deal. It's much more embarrassing, shameful, that's what he'd say, shameful, that he has listened to you all and gotten himself into a position to have just gotten a loan to try not to lose the house he was so proud of getting on his own, to support everybody and to provide a place for Sheila to have her affair. Like, I mean, there's nothing more shameful than that. And then lying to him and trying to make him believe that I'm withholding the kids from him when I wasn't. I was just having healthy boundaries so they didn't have to watch Tina get sexual with him or constantly whisper in his ears, which is rude. If you have a secret, take it to another room like an adult, you know? Or to be emasculating him to where they're asking me questions about why is Dad being such a pushover and letting them treat him so disrespectfully, especially in front of us, you know? Like, stuff like that. And I mean, at this point, it's like, no matter what y'all do next, you've already done all of that. And as I told his sister, like, when she was saying that y'all were saying that I was driving past the house a bunch, I'm not. I even turned down DoorDash orders about it. Like, yeah, I DoorDash in the city that y'all live in, but I have intentionally not gone there because I'm aware of how your pirate games work, and I'm the one that asked him to go. So I was like, if I get all piney and I do all that stuff, doesn't it kind of defeat the purpose of my healing? Yeah, it does. So I didn't do that. And I could prove it with my Google Maps because I keep track of it for my taxes, right? So I know that I did not go. And when his sister said, oh, really? They've been telling everybody that you've been doing that the whole time. I laughed because it's like, wow, when it comes out, how many different ways that you lied to try to turn him against me and our kids. Like, it's much like my 10-year-old. When he finds out that y'all have been lying to him, that you caused him to hurt people who loved him, to what? To protect your ego? I'm really not sure. You're not building an empire that's stable. You're making Rudy lose his house. There's a lot of, like, shamefulness happening to the level to where it's like, even if I talk about it, it's like you're draining him so badly, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, that he might take his own life. Like, what's there left? What's left, right? So what's the reason to not talk about it? Especially if y'all succeed in doing that. I mean, I would rather have everybody know it was you. In any case, I'm grateful though, because the stand-up comedy thing to me is like, now that y'all have created such a shameful situation for everybody. I own my own shame in this too, but for everybody. Enough to where it totally made it righteous and justifiable for me to talk about it, considering how you intentionally tried to take my reputation out, my connection with my kids, my connection with him when I was zero threat. I intentionally didn't want to be. I wanted him to learn those lessons with y'all, and not so I could say I told you so. I wanted him to learn those lessons with y'all so he could have healthy boundaries and chase and pursue his dreams like he's always wanted to, which none of y'all make any time for him to do, because y'all always have something. You all fucking give me attention. I have an emergency. That person's making me insecure. What are we gonna do about this? I misspent the money, and oh, blah blah blah. Like, you don't really have anybody to blame for any of it but yourselves. And now it's shameful enough to where talking about all of it was the best answer to help everyone. For me to stand up for myself, for me to protect my kids, for me to help make sure he doesn't die. Like, I'm grateful to y'all. Like, I get to be the person, whether it's tomorrow, a year from now, 10 years from now, I get to be the person who is willing to let him hate me. Willing to let you guys do any sort of bullying bullshit to me that you wanted to, so that he survived, so that he did not repeat the cycle that happened with his mom and dad and with y'all. And he maintained at least one healthy connection with at least one of his children. And even more beautiful, I could go and do my stand-up comedy. I know that my 10-year-old will realize the truth. I know that my Rudy Bug will realize the truth. I know that you guys, even if you finally get smart and ignore me, you're still already been running everything into the ground. Like, I did not actually, like, y'all were even right there. I just wanted to be able to stand up for myself and feel like, you know what, I am human too. Why am I pretending to be all only good? I got shadows too. I got judgments. I got things that I want to say, right? And now I can take that and do what I want with that. As I mean, I'm not being hateful. I'm not being wrong. I'm not lying. So, like, why not? And then I get to be that person that did the right thing even when it was really hard. Even when none of y'all were going to stand with me, because it meant that y'all also had to own that y'all did wrong too, even though y'all did some good here and there too. But, like, in order to stand next to me, you got to be able to own it all. You got to be willing to go all the way for good, not all the way for bad. Like, going all the way for bad, how does that help anybody? How does that help the kids? How does that help you? How does that help me? It doesn't do nothing. So now, like, I'm super grateful. I'm sitting here going, I doubt any of y'all will even want to be involved in it for another 21 months, but it's like, go ahead. Like, try to do what you can to the connection. I'm just going to keep glowing up. I'm going to keep doing the right thing. I'm going to keep working on me. And while you guys got him trapped there where he can't play his music, he can't work in the stuff, he can't see his money, everybody now knows how shameful of a position that y'all have put him in. And he's got our Joey, which y'all want to try to turn against me, which means that he has to be responsible for it, because Tina wasn't even be responsible for her own kids or the kid that she tricked into adopting. So now he's got extra burden on him, and he actually has to be good to our kid because it's his kid. You know, if nothing else, there's a biological paternal instinct in it. And I know that by Tina's own refusal to simply have, even just have some basic social etiquette at various, like Joey's birthday party that we had, or any of that stuff, that anytime I've asked for her just to have some basic healthy boundaries, she's told me to fuck off and wanted to beat me up, and that I don't understand how breakups work and shit like that. Like, she ain't got no boundaries, so she cannot really have herself around our son because she will violate his boundaries, and probably to the point that she has violated Rudy's boundaries to where it happens on its own. But I know, because I'm a good mom and because I'm talking about it, that that's not going to happen. So really the question is, how long are you guys going to keep them? Because it makes y'all look really, I don't know what the appropriate word is. Like, gross? Mean? Cruel? Unstable. Maybe unstable is the word. That's y'all's favorite word too, so maybe that's the right word, unstable. And no matter what happens, I mean, I have to take my lumps. If you guys really, really hurt my 10-year-old, I have to take accountability for that. That's one of the things that I told Rudy. I said, you know, part of me keeping the kids away from Tina and the others, because Tina clearly has no boundaries, and you're telling me that her kids are getting in fights with people outside the house that are bringing people to the door with guns and knives and things like that. You're telling me they have no boundaries with you, that anytime you try to have boundaries, they get aggressive with you and stuff. And, like, if that's true, and that's not just either shit talking to try to, I don't know, turn me away from it, which is possible. Rudy talks shit. He's a gossip. He gossips like a little schoolgirl. I don't always love it, but I do think it's a bit adorable because he puts himself in these positions this way. I didn't do it. He did it. You know? But it's the same as all the rest of the pirates. Nobody had to tell me anything. I didn't ask for anything. Nobody really should have had any specific allegiances to me in that way. And if they did feel like trying me out, they should have really had real allegiances instead of, like, I don't know, like being Benedict Arnold's. Like, I didn't make them choose those decisions. Like, you know, I just worked on me and stayed in my own lane, was authentic about what I saw and how I felt. And I never joined them in saying that I was going to abandon him or shit talk him or believe he was just hurting me on purpose or had some weird plan to keep me in his pocket and use me against Tina. No. My Rudy Bug, no. I mean, I talked with a therapist about this. I've talked about other people. No. Him having a plan like that? No. Like, he's a genius. He's super, super smart. But when it comes to social stuff and that codependence and the fear of being alone, no. He even admitted early on he did not think things through. But I know him, and where he gets stuck is where I used to get stuck. He has a big heart, right? So even knowing that it was all bullshit, having somebody borderline who then gets super emotional, if anybody should ever possibly suggest that she's not perfect as she is, or that maybe he's unhappy because he would like to not be yelled at. He would like not to be ruled by iron fist. He would like not to have to make the choice between, do I tell her she's being abusive with all of the kids and fucked up to mine and risk her beating me up some more, or being mean to me some more, or do I keep quiet so that I don't have to deal with the drama? Like, it's not the most mature of decisions, but I can understand why he's so unhappy. And I know he didn't have a plan. His plan was to do what I said, which was find himself and grow. And he actually achieved that plan. That's what makes me laugh so much. Everybody wants to shit talk him. I see him doing exactly what he did have as a plan: to grow, to be better than he was with me and better than he was with Sheila, to be more mature, to do his best to create a healthy, undramatic co-parenting dynamic, which he did. And I do not fault him for why that fell apart, because he was honest with me about his own proclivities, his own challenges in it, and everybody else's, and what everybody else was doing, using his house for affairs and different schemes and plans and parties and things like that. Like, I don't fault him. He was trying to do the best that he could. And he never meant to hurt me on any of it. In fact, the whole reason that he was as honest with me as he was, in ways that did hurt my feelings, but it's because I asked him to be. He was really putting faith in me. And I had a couple of times I did not react as well as I would have hoped, and he still was honest with me until y'all got insecure about that. Which amazes me, because I not once said, you need to dump them all, or you need to stop hanging out with them. But you know what did happen? He texted me a few times. It was my favorite. He probably doesn't remember because he was pretty drunk, but he texted me and said, I really did need to release all my exes. I have a screenshot of that. I was like, damn. Awakening divine masculine. That's pretty fucking sexy. I would not have chosen for him to go back and interacted with y'all, but I am grateful that he has, you know? And now I am going to go into the dollar store to get a new hairbrush because I broke my last one. It was cheap. I got it from the dollar store. And then I'm going to go get a haircut, because I've decided I'm going to cut my hair short, which is funny because I grew it all out, all long, to explore my femininity. I always had short hair before, and he always said that he loved a lady with long hair. He was never the type to be like, I'm not as attracted to you with short hair, but he'd be like, I love a lady that has long, I love it if you have long hair, because I've had long hair a couple of times. And I was like, okay. So I did it for me because I wanted to explore my femininity, but I also knew that he would love it, and I almost cut it several times, but then I was like, no, because that's the thing that I do when a relationship is over, when a job is over, when I have a really emotional time and stuff. And to me, that energetically would signal that I was moving on. I didn't want him to feel like I was abandoning him. But now, he's got our youngest son, Joey. And I'm having faith in him to do the right thing with him, even though he's going to fuck it up a few times here and there. I'm well aware of who he is and how it's going to go. But I have faith in him. And I have faith in all the good mothering I put into Joey's formative years, which are some of the most important years of a person's life, especially a child's life. And he got treated good by everybody, a little overspoiled, to be honest, but by the time that we'd had him, everybody calmed down because I did not play in the drama, and that calmed everybody down. And then everybody started copying me, like, years on, because there wasn't a way to get me into the drama, so the only way was to try to be a little bit more like me to get Rudy's attention again. And I am so fucking grateful for that story. I've been thinking about that. That's part of why I'm grateful for Sheila too. Like, the amount of years she stalked me on MySpace to have an opinion if I ever put up a picture of Rudy or myself or our son. Like, the amount of times she got jealous at the fact that I had his sons. Like, everybody in all of his exes were all upset because he has a specific name, so our youngest is the fifth, right? Everybody wanted to have his sons. And even with our first son, who I could have named after him, and I did not because in his story, he got named after his dad, and then his dad left, and that's a really hard thing on a person's identity. I did not want to do that to our oldest son because I did not think that there would actually be a opportunity for a relationship with all the pirates in there. So I didn't do that. So it still left open the opportunity for him to have that with whomever he might be with, because that's the kind of fucking person that I am, right? And then when we decided to intentionally have our second son and name him after him, I decided we go by his middle name so that I knew who I was lecturing and didn't there was no confusion. Then they know who it is. She got upset because apparently that was her idea if they had ever had a son. And I looked at him and I said, and he looked at me and he was like, "You're not upset by that?" I'm like, "You know what? I mean, she's not my favorite person, but a good idea is a good idea. And just because she had it first when y'all were thinking about it doesn't mean that I'm going to change my mind on it. It's still a good idea." Because that's the way a stable, rational person thinks about things. We don't take everything personally. We don't get butt hurt that someone else has weird feelings and gets dramatic and things. And now I can look back at, like, I was thinking about it, like, if I was to have, like, I mean, my oldest son is my number one fan. I think his friend is my second fan. And I would have put Rudy or Tina as number 3, but I want to give number 3 to Sheila because of longevity. Like, I've never had somebody so interested with me in my life. Especially somebody who so mistreated her person. Girl, I mean, you seemed bored with him, to be quite honest. And, like, you discarded him multiple times. Moreover, like, a lot of times. I assume by the time that I offered him sanctuary when he was broken, that other than a little bit of, like, I don't know, gaslighting and fucking with him a little bit more, that you were done with him, especially when you were rushing into getting remarried. Like, I mean, it seemed like there was no lanest in there other than you and the kids stuff, which I never got in the way of. And even when I knew that you were pulling him back in the beginning, instead of telling him he was wrong or that I knew or even expressing my hurt with that, mostly because you hurt him so much and it hurts me that he went back to do that. Instead, I went out and hung out with my own friends. Okay? I went out and hung out with my own exes. I was a grown woman at 19 in that space, at 20 in that space. I was a grown woman at 15 who did not chase him down. I was a grown woman at 18 who did not move myself into his apartment like he thought I would, because that's what y'all do. And he found that so attractive. And then the amount of time that y'all have spent focusing on me, it's funny because I realized that I kept y'all alive in our relationship by the minimal focus that I had on you guys as you created a bunch of pirate drama. And I thought I was the one that kept y'all in it. If I had not had even the minimal insecurities that I had, it wouldn't have been there. But I realized that we reflected. Y'all kept him with me. And y'all keep my name alive in his memory right now, because even though you think that you're gaining something by sitting around making fun of me, or, like, I don't know, try to make me look unstable, which is like, I mean, hurry up. Like, if you got it, do it. You know, like, it's only your own time that you're wasting. But it's one of those, like, I mean, my number 3 fan is his first wife. And all that time, she gave me all of that specific attention. Because that clearly shows some incredible insecurities in that place. And the funny thing is, when I showed my insecurities, I never once told him to cut you off. I remember when he was ready, after Sheila completely ruined their daughter's 21st birthday with her affair with the same guy that she cheated on Rudy with 3 days after they got married and shit. Like, I was disgusted. And I went to prove it to him. Look, this is how she's fucking with you. Here, 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 and here. But I never said cut her off, because she is his daughter's mother. And clearly they have had a long time toxic and trauma bonding dynamic. So even if that was the best thing to do, which it was, he would not be ready to do that right off the bat. It would take time. But he got gung-ho with his Aries placements and was so hurt, especially to have then gotten drunk and cried in the booth, to only have been further bullied by the two of you and not to have been available as a father to his daughter. He wanted it to be done. That's why I had that message that I put on Facebook that confirmed that he was done with y'all, and even was going to have healthy boundaries with some of his family. Now, he made that decision instead to say to ambiguously say, I'm done with all of it. I don't want to party with you. I don't want to deal with your plus one, all that shit. It was not me. I did not tell him to do that. I literally said, honey, I get why you want to go that far. I do. But let's look at your history, okay? Like, this has been a long time. Y'all were entangled and doing a lot of shit even before me. It's not stopped. It's not going to stop by going to extremes. You should start with a smaller boundary. Like, I'm not going to go out and party with you. I'm not going to meet up with you late at night. I'm not going to go to important functions for our daughter where you bring your affair partner with you. Small things, right? And I never even told him. Like, I was like, yeah, I'm human. I would like to say, please stop talking to Sheila. She's not good for you. Like, but I know, one, that's how y'all are. He told me all about that. Like, that was one of his things. He used to tell me he loved the most about me was that no matter how much I may have my opinions and my judgments about his friends and family and things like that, I've never once said you need to stop talking to them. I've never once said you shouldn't be friends or you shouldn't talk with them. I have very simply said, look, honey, this is the information you are providing me. You are telling me that you're being hurt by them. You're telling me that they're not respecting you, that they're asking you to do a bunch of work for hardly any compensation, that are really, they're like boyfriend chores, husband chores and things, and you don't like it, and you'd like to be home more often, and you would like to at least feel appreciated by them, which they hardly ever show unless they're trying to get something out of you. That doesn't sound healthy to me. Why don't you change the dynamics? But you know what? He was afraid to say something as simple, even to Ivy, who kept texting him after 11 o'clock at night to ask him to come out. And I said, why don't you simply tell her, hey, there might be a night that Amanda and I would love to come out with you past 11, but usually past 11, I'm enjoying my evening with her in bed. And he was afraid to say that because he didn't think Ivy was the kind of friend who would stay his friend if he communicated that with her. And he was afraid to be direct with you, Sheila, and say, this is not kind to our daughter, because he was afraid you would turn her against him more, which clearly you have, because I can tell by the way that she interacted with me when I started telling the truth that you convinced her that her dad left y'all to go fuck me, which is not the truth in any way, shape, or form. In fact, for the most part, when we met, we hardly did it because we didn't have any place to do it. Like, yeah, we made space, but mostly we talked. Mostly we sat at Denny's. We sit at parks. We go walking miles at a time, just walking, talking. We go to my friends' houses where, even though it was its own sort of chaos, it certainly wasn't that kind of chaos. And even back then, I offered him sanctuary when my parents were moving out of the old house that was in Shoreline, and they had to keep it because their landlord was a pirate, and I knew he needed a place to stay because he told me his family betrayed him, they weren't helping him, that he was seeing bruises and stuff on his daughter's arms, he got punched in the face trying to go and see her before, like all this bullying, all this shit going on, and he'd given up. He was ready to drink himself to death, like literally the night before he met me, when he bought the cart, that was his intention, and if he had not woken up in the morning because the fire department said, hey buddy, you can't sleep here, it probably would have happened. And so I offered him, I set it up. I set up so he could have space in that house, with and without me. But definitely with me, because, I mean, it was my house and I wanted to enjoy it too. But mostly we talked, you know? He showed me how to stay warm by turning the oven on, because, the heat in the house, I wasn't oil heat, but whatever it was, we didn't want to spend it. So he showed me how he used to warm up by opening up the thing. And we talked. We mostly just talked. We listened to music on the radio, and we talked. And we talked, and we talked, and we talked. And, you know, the funny thing is, too, he told me so many good things, too. It was genuinely hard for me to understand, like, what to do in that situation any more than he did. Like, you want to stay loyal to someone you made marriage vows to, but it's hard when they're constantly disloyal to you and trying to turn everyone else against you. You want to be there for your kid. You want to be available. You don't want to abandon them, especially when you've been abandoned, but how do you not when everyone's turning you against them and not helping you and putting you in situations where you have trauma responses in front of the kids, and then you turn to drinking and other things to try to cope with it all? Like, I mean, it's really fucked up to have communicated either intentionally or unintentionally that Rudy would ever, by choice, abandon his daughter just to go have sex with somebody else. That's fucked up. He has never been that person. He never will be that person. That's part of why, despite everybody, including his own family, trying to convince me that he's just an immature, spoiled jerk who's trying to hurt everybody, I know that he's not. Because while I would prefer the story to have been that y'all were good to him and I just met him as a friend and that he had a happy, good life with the people that he wanted to be with and be loyal to and be around, I'm really super grateful though, because that's not my story in terms of what I did. And I got to sit there and be the one who was there for him. Not because I had any agenda. I didn't need anything from him. Goodness sakes, 15, 16, 17. I did not have the responsibilities that y'all had laid on him. I didn't even have responsibilities that would have been appropriate to have had on myself as an adult at that time. So I didn't have any agenda. I had no reason other than the fact that I liked his company. I liked his heart. I liked the way that he talked about how much he missed and loved his daughter. I liked how he looked for the good in you, Sheila, even despite everything that you were doing. I liked that he looked for the good in everybody. That was a beautiful thing for me, to meet somebody who was like me in that way, because I did the same thing. And that's part of why I never tried to interfere. When y'all were being assholes to him and pirates to him, I was there. Because I wanted to be. That's it, plain and simple. And when you guys called him back in to fuck with his heart and fuck with everybody else, I kept my distance. As I have done the past 22 months also. The only difference is, back then, I would not have been in my lane to have said any of what I'm saying, to be doing any of what I'm doing, other than it's appropriate to speak the truth so children don't get hurt. However, in terms of marriages and other things like that, if I had been immature enough to have assumed I could have had an actual relationship with a married man, which it never was, we were clear about that from the beginning. That's why it was friends with benefits, no strings attached, right? So even at that, I wouldn't have felt like I was in my lane. But considering that I have documented years of evidence, because we went through therapy and he had his own immaturities and crazy making that we had to get through first. So, as a happy accident, as Bob Ross calls it, I have a lot of evidence just sitting around in multiple places that is like, wow. I mean, even if I don't do anything with it in terms of y'all, like, that makes my story pretty incredible that I got to be that person. Like, he used to tell me so much. That's part of why he loves it with me. I listened. I believed him. I was there for him when he wanted me to be. I didn't chase him down when he didn't want to be. And now we kind of get a repeat of some of that energy, to where my only remorsefulness back then, after we talked so much, was knowing that he actually had more feelings for me, but because of the way that y'all were with him, he assumed that I didn't want more because I wasn't just moving in with him or taking it or trying to wrap him up into marriage immediately or trying to trap him with our oldest son. And knowing that about him, like knowing him as deeply as I know him after all this time, it's like, y'all can have him for as long as you want, because I'm looking for the story of when y'all discard him, as you always inevitably do. And I did the right things. And I spoke up and I made it clear, like, you know what, honey, I really want you to spend time with yourself and with our youngest son and find yourself when you're not under the thumb of anyone else. And when you feel good with that, I would like a friendship for a while, because assuming that I'm right about how he's continued to show me that he feels and his own proclivities and stuff like that, I know that he's been trying to both get back to me and to open up his house for me and the boys to move in there and for him to have space for his daughter there. So, like, and he's continued to work towards manifesting our land and house. So, at the point that y'all are done with him and have found your new targets or your new fun or whatever thing, you put me back in the position of who I was to him then. The person who will be there for him, even if y'all convince him it's better to treat me like crap, even if y'all lie about me and try to make him feel like I'm the one who's doing wrong to him. When you're done with him and you leave him without anything, without any money. You try to destroy his reputation by suggesting that he was more hurtful to you. Yeah, right. Like, when y'all are done tearing him apart, like the leeches that he says that you are, I'm still going to be here. And I'm going to put to use this time of this beautiful gratitude energy to build my own situation up even more. Because I know that when you are done with him and he realizes the truth of what y'all have done, all of y'all, not just Tina and Sheila, but everybody, and he realizes that I really never, ever, ever was trying to get in the way of a relationship that, I mean, he never said he wanted it, but he made it clear that he felt like he needed to stay with it so he didn't hurt anybody else, who, because they all feel like victims if he's not there doing everything for them, including the dishes and all the house chores and everything else. Like, that's been appalling. Like, really, y'all? At least if you're gonna be a sugar baby, take care of the fucking house. Like, stop bringing in other people to fucking flirt with. Like, that's fucked up. You make sure a man comes in, he has his beer if he wants it, or whatever beverage, and a nice hot meal when he comes home after work, because he's paying for all your fucking shit, and he does all the chores, and he fixes everybody's shit, and he doesn't even complain half the time about it. He's fucking amazing. For you guys to fuck with him like that, and then to try to turn him against me, like when he and our son realize that they were mean to me based on trying to protect y'all who were betraying the two of them and everybody else at the same time. Oh man, I'm gonna be so extra grateful. Like extra, read all about it. Like that's gonna be me. And I'm probably gonna gloat about it while I'm up on stage doing my stand-up comedy. That's gonna be great. I'm really gonna love that. Anyways, thank you to all of you who have watched, both Pirates and Tina and Sheila when you eventually get to it, my Rudy Bug, everybody. Like, I really do love y'all. Y'all are great. Thank you for the ego boost. I'll see you in the next video.